I don't know, since you guys were in high school, not too much has changed with the convention hall and the Paramount. It basically stayed the same. And we tore down the back end of the casino building, the part that was over the ocean. That was torn down about 15 years ago because it was dilapidated. But quite frankly, I'm in the construction business, or at least I used to be. Now I'm getting back in it. But we're doing some renovation work starting tomorrow in the casino building itself. Underneath, we're ripping out all the old pipes, and they're going to try and start.
What are they going to put in there?
They don't know yet, but they have to prepare it in order to get somebody in there.
Right.
And this was the old Howard Johnson Pavilion.
Yeah, I love that they left this intact.
And my history with this goes back to 1960. I dug the foundations for this building.
Really?
And then the building on the other side, the Sunset Pavilion, I actually built that when I was 22 years old. So, and the boardwalk's been rebuilt twice since you guys were in high school. If you remember, it used to be with 2x4s. Now it's got 2x6 lumber. That's basically it. The buildings themselves are still intact. They've all been renovated now, of course, with different functions. There's no more rides on the boardwalk. I don't know why. There's no more pool here. They quote, they're trying to attract upscale. They don't want the families with the kids here. I don't know why. But it used to be. But there's
that's what's ruined the people.
well, there's different thinking today. I mean, in the corporate world, and you got different owners. All the buildings on the beachfront are owned by one owner, a company out of Washington, D.C. called Madison Marquette. They own the buildings, even a convention hall and everything. And then there's a developer on the other side of Ocean Avenue called iStar. And they're out of New York because they took over for a company called Asbury Partners. It's a long story. It's a real long story. I got to go back to 83, if you don't mind. My brother and I bought the Berkeley. They're going to tear the Berkeley Carteret down, and we bought it for $300,000. $20 million later, we had it up and running, and I had a partner. Johnny Cash was my partner. Ernie Anastas, the anchor man on the New York, was another partner. The Hovnanians were my limited partners, and we restored the building, and it actually won an award as the best project in the United States for the use of public and private money because we got a grant from Washington to employ people. And then the deal with the grant was that they grant the money, but then you repay the money to the town at a low interest rate. Well, it never happened because after we got that up and running, everything looks like it's going pretty good. And 1988, they had a problem with the sewer plant, and it was over full, and somebody opened the valve and they let raw sewage out on the beach. And I don't have to tell you that killed the 1988 beach season. It was 4th of July weekend. So after that, everything was starting to decline. I had formed a partnership with a company out of Connecticut called Carabetta, and at the time they were very well connected and very well heeled construction company. And we actually started building an 18-story building. Then we had in 1989, 1990, the savings and loan crisis. 5 banks that were doing business with failed. 5 banks. The Bank of Boston gave us a $50 million loan commitment, and they advanced $18 million. We get the building half up. They pulled the plug. So that thing stopped. Marine Midland Bank, gone. Toms River Bank failed, which had the mortgage on the Berkeley. And then another bank, Riverside Savings, failed. So needless to say, now the FDIC steps in. And they're not very nice people. We were behind on our mortgage at the Berkeley. We only owed $6 million. We asked them to restruct the loan. They say no, they foreclosed, and they sold it for $1 million cash. And that was part of the demise of really what happened. And then it just took a long time for that to start coming back. And Carabetta then filed a bankruptcy. He bought my brother and I out. And I kind of thought we were set for life for $9 million, $1 million a year for 9 years, and he went bankrupt and the notes were worthless.
Oh my God.
So that's kind of my problem. But then another developer came in by the name of Asbury Partners, and I kind of helped facilitate the deal. And this is in 2003, and they went to bankruptcy court and bought out Carabetta's rights, and they couldn't wait for the chance to foreclose, and they foreclosed and wiped Asbury Partners out, and they're now the new developer.
Now give us the good news.
Well, the good news is things are starting to, to turn around. They really are. They really are. And the downtown is really starting to bustle again. I mean, naturally the old stores that we remember are long since gone, but it's really starting to come back. They've got some great restaurants in town, and they get rave reviews. So, and even along the boardwalk, these are really good restaurants. This McLoones is very good. Down there, a place called Langusta Lounge is outstanding. And then at the other end is a place, Stella Marie, an Italian restaurant, and a Cuban restaurant next to it. And they all really flourish in the summer. And this past summer was the best beach crowd we ever had. So it's part of that is all just takes time. It takes.
Some of the skeleton is still up.
No, that's the new skeleton.
Oh, that's a new skeleton. Oh.
Okay.
But it's in the same spot where you're.
Yeah. Okay. Not many people had this distinction. I built a building and I blew it up. Okay. So I guess it's been about 8 years ago. We demolished the shell that was sitting up since 1990.
Oh, okay.
And there's a little funny story attached with that. They had a big ceremony, and on the roof deck over here in front of the Paramount Theater, they had the mayor set up there with a plunger, and they got the clocking down, and then he's going to press the plunger, and the building's going to blow up. Well, he had a dummy plunger. He just pushes it down. My little grandson, who at the time was 6, actually pressed the button that blew the building up. So you got to picture this. The kid is like 6 years old, and we had to wake him up at 5 in the morning because they blew it up at 7. And he's got this hard hat on, and afterwards they take him over to my daughter's house, and he's rubbing his eyes. He says, Aunt Tony, I'm tired. I just blew up this big building. So that's a little aside to that. But, it's really turning around.
Yeah.
What's the present status of the building?
Which one?
The Brooklyn Carteret.
Well, there's new owners. When I lost it in a bankruptcy for $1 million, they sold it to Maharishi Yogi.
Oh, boy.
And they brought in all this transcendental meditation, and I mean, they were actually ruined it. They were running a university out of it and a healthcare facility. They employed nobody, and it was more like a dormitory. And then they flipped it and sold it to a Chinese guy for $5 million. He flipped it for $13 million to the owners that are in there now, who've been in there for like 3 years. Now, the old Salvation Army building directly opposite here was just converted by iStar into a, quote, boutique hotel.
Is the Berkeley Carteret open?
Yeah.
As a,
It's open as a hotel, but I don't think they have food there.
they don't have food.
I don't think so. They still cater parties there, but they bring in an outside caterer.
The Ferris wheel that was in the Palace Amusements went through the roof.
Yep.
It's in Middletown, and a golf course. And the guys that own the golf course wanted to, if Asbury Park ever came back well enough, they wanted to re-erect it. But supposedly they've determined that it's not structurally sound enough to do that. And I'm just wondering if it's really true or not.
It's true. The guy that bought it was his sitar, and the golf course is in Tinton Falls. They have it. It's like a.
Oh, it's not Middletown?
Not that I know. I'm pretty sure it's Tinton Falls, but this is another part of the whole sad story of the thing. Okay, my brother and I bought the Palace in 1985, and we ran it as an ongoing business along with some other businesses here. Part of the contract that we had with Carabetta, the developer at the time, was we were required to sell all of our property to the developer. Okay, so part of the package, we sold him the Palace. He gave us 90 days to deliver broom clean, or he keeps everything that was in there. So we had an auction. We sold off the Ferris wheel, the carousel, and everything that was in there. I think the carousel was sold in pieces to somebody else, but Sitar bought the Ferris wheel from one of the buyers from Mississippi. I think he bought it and took it down there, but then he brought it back. But it was in pretty rough condition, and you're right, it would never meet today's standards for a Ferris wheel because of the cars, they're all corroded. Now, what they're doing on this building here, they had a bandstand on here at one point in time, and the problem was when they put the seats in, they drilled them through the roof. So naturally it leaked. Every time it rained, it leaked in there. So that was abandoned, and they're now talking about resurrecting this with a rooftop restaurant and outdoor eating and area.
Need to have the band.
Well, a lot of things need to happen, but
Remember Frank Bryan?
yeah, I know. But that's what it is. That's what it is. So. I wrote this book about Johnny Cash. It's the most incredible book. It's called Johnny Cash is a Friend of Mine. It talks about him in Asbury Park, and it's really special because I went bankrupt in 1992 and I got wiped out, you know. And out of the clear blue sky, I get this phone call, and on the other end is Johnny Cash, and he says, you know, Henry, how are you doing? June and I were really worried about you. Are you okay? I said, you know, I'm doing the best I can. He said, what are you going to do for the holidays? I said, I'm just going to stay home. He says, no, that's not fair. You're going to come to Jamaica with us. So he sends me a ticket, and I spend Christmas and New Year's in Jamaica at this magnificent estate he had. I'm sleeping in the same bed Billy Graham was in a week before I got there. And that's the kind of man he was. And this here used to be miniature golf course.
Yes, I remember that. Back in my high school days, what was the fellow that owned the
Carousel. Eddie Lang and Zimmer Resnick was partners in it at one time, and George Lang was his son.
His daughter.
Yeah, this was a bathing pavilion with lockers on the second floor, and it had a tunnel underneath to the beach.
Yes, I remember that also.
I worked there.
Vaguely.
I worked Monte Carlo pool was my first job as a locker boy, 1955.
Did you know Butch Bruno?
Sure, I played football with Butch Bruno. They didn't come any better.
Because he supervised that pool for a while.
No, then he was a beach director.
Yeah.
After Sherman Mishler.
Yeah, right.
Did the Redekers own the Monte Carlo?
Yes, they did. And then they sold it, and that's when they put the high-rise up there.
And Richie Redeker was the son?
Yeah,
I think so.
Was the son of the...
Yeah, who owned the car dealership?
Yeah, and my father and
Acura.
grandfather owned the Dodge Plymouth I did garage.
I was in the Monte Carlo one day, and I went up to the high board.
Yeah.
I climbed right back down.
Oh, I don't blame you.
The pool looked like a postage stamp.
That was high. I mean, back then, that's right. They had the diving pool, the regular pool, the kiddies pool, and then the tunnel to the beach.
It was supposed to be the largest saltwater pool in the country.
I believe it was.
Maybe the world.
I believe it was.
We talked about
Butch
an
was my
incident.
uncle.
Okay.
Nate was my cousin.
Yeah, Nate.
Allstate Nate.
I know he's a hell of a football player, and Butch was a hell of a football coach. And who was your dad?
Dominic. He was the third brother.
Okay.
There was eight brothers.
I remember Leon, Basil.
Yep.
Last night we were talking about an incident at Monte Carlo. Gary Giberson
Sure.
got sucked into
He got stuck in the 7th Avenue
Right.
pool. Not the Monte Carlo.
Oh, not the Monte Carlo?
No, the 7th Avenue. They were cleaning it, and he dove down, and it sucked him right into the drain.
Yeah, and he
They
was
had a tough
underwater
time.
for 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, they were running down, going down and breathing air into his mouth till they could get him out.
But I
They had
remember...
a tough time closing
Yeah.
the valve because they never used the valve.
Yeah.
They always pulled the mat over.
Oh,
And
geez.
he
He was
on
too close and
TV
it got him.
after that when they said the longest person underwater and he survived.
possible.
Yeah, that was in a magazine. I think Popular Science or Popular Mechanics, one of the magazines.
Yeah, he was in our class of 61, I believe.
Yeah, I just saw him yesterday, as a matter of fact. He was the director of public works in town.
Oh,
and he
Gary
Is he retired?
He's
now?
retired now. He's the director of the beach. Now there's a pinball place in here that has all these antique pinball machines. But then this Langusa is a really good restaurant at the end here. They have like vacation food, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in here, what they have is instead of a swimming pool, they have this. It's a water park where kids can go in and. This is a water park here where kids can go and just get under the water. That Mrs. J's was right there. That was Mrs. J's where the Stone Pony is.
Yes, okay.
And they had the beer garden next to it on the outside.
Yeah. Friday nights, right?
Yeah, the circuit, yeah. And the bridge that connected to Berkeley to that building over there.
Yeah.
I tore that down too. Yeah. Yeah. Then I built that building, a 12-story building. That's Phillips Seaview Tower. That's a senior citizens building. This is that Stella Marina restaurant.
Oh, I was
This
one
is
year.
great. We ate there last time we were here.
Very good food in there, Stella Marina's. And in this part of the casino, I had the contract to tear that down. I was dilapidated. But I saw my first rock concert there in 1955. Bill Haley and the Comets.
I was there.
Incredible,
I
right?
was there, yes. That was a heavy-duty experience.
Yeah.
Are there any plans for this building?
Well, yeah. I don't know what the plans are, but right now, as we go toward the end of it, I can show you. I just dug a tunnel underneath there. Underneath this whole building is loaded with pipes.
Oh,
because there was a steam plant over there that fed steam to every building on the beachfront.
Oh,
That big power plant at the end was a steam plant.
Oh, really?
So it's got these giant steam pipes, and my contract is to remove all of them. So that's what I do in my spare time. So I don't know what the ultimate plan is. I'm just happy I have to work right now. Because work is rough.
Remember the ice?
Yeah, over there. Absolutely.
Another level, and it's been abandoned for a long time. There was a whole forest up there.
Yeah, I know. I tore it down.
Seeds have blown in, you know, and
And he
grew up.
stayed, yeah. Actually, trees grew in there. But what you don't see is what's underneath there. My contract is underneath there. There's the whole area is all loaded with steam and sewer and water pipes, and my job is to get rid of them. So I started out.
They're going to build a skateboard park in there?
Yeah, they already have it done. It's only a temporary thing on the.
I heard they're going to build it in here.
No, it's just in a casino. It's just in a carousel building. Okay, if you look in here, this is my contract. I just started this. If you look through there, I just dug myself a tunnel to get inside the building, and all that equipment back there is mine. So I've got to get underneath there to take all those pipes out.
That's the type of stuff you like.
I love it. I can't wait to get to work tomorrow.
That's good.
And see, this building here, this was the steam
The
plant.
steam plant, yeah.
And underneath it had 4 giant boilers, and it fed steam through a tunnel to every building on the beachfront, including the casino, the convention hall, the Paramount.
Wow.
You guys got a great day, huh?
Perfect. It was like San Diego,
Where do you live at?
Los Angeles.
Oh boy.
Henry, in case you have to leave early or something, I just want to say thank you.
Well,
I really do.
Thank you. That makes me feel good. It does.
Really do.